Hi everyone, and welcome back to what the fuck am I talking about? Welcome back to No One's Home. It's first of 2021. Also, if you saw the beginning of my screen, you would see that there's OBS there because I wanted to try something a little bit different this year because I feel like it would be one a lot easier. Two, my fucking I look so crispy crunchy right now, but yeah, okay. So, what am I going to talk about today? I'm your host, Cecilia Caesar Sassy, whatever, like talk about something that weird because I will cry because I'm a very sensitive person. I look like a ghost in the visualizer. Today, if you read the title, I'm not sure what I'm going to title it yet, but I basically want to talk about the intricacies, the beauty, the loneliness, and the kind of iconicness, I guess, in Serial Experiments Lane. So what is this anime, right? What else do I talk about? I literally don't know. It's poo poo pee pee, shit caca poo poo, diarrhea, garbage, anime, VTuber. That's how my brain works. That's all it is basically. So what is this anime about? It is the summary that I got from Wikipedia because I planned to do this episode so long ago last year after I finished it because I literally watched it in 2 days and I was just so it's not that like I was like enamored by the anime. I do love it. I do appreciate it. It's like what it's done for like pop culture and referencing other animes and things like that. It was more along the lines is that like I want to finish anime as fast as I can because I'm a garbage person because I want to start something new because I have just like the like in between cusp of like millennial and Gen Z brain rot where it's like I have to keep watching all of the media as much as I can or I'll have like an intrusive thought or like just a shitty boo boo caca thought that I don't really need to be thinking about. So this was my escapism for I think for like 2 days because the if you want to watch the series it's fully available almost in HD, I believe, on YouTube. If you want to watch it anywhere else, you can totally watch it anywhere else. This is just where I saw it. So our synopsis, our summary from the internet is Lain, Serial Experiments Lain in 1998 is about an adolescent girl who develops a unique connection to a virtual reality network known as The Wired. If you have not watched this anime yet, I totally recommend you do. 100%. It starts off. It's definitely a slow burn. Like this is like the no spoiler very small review because again I'm not good at reviewing. What is it about? So basically my summary would be that it is about a girl dealing with not necessarily popularity on the internet, but it's basically our lonely character Lane kind of finds herself but realizes that she was never meant to be a real person at all. And that's all I'm gonna say. It's not a major spoiler, but it's a little spoiler. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it yet because I'm gonna get into spoiler territory as I recall. And remember, I think it's only 12 episodes, 12 or 13 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really remember. I'm not gonna look it up because my computer will melt if I try to do anything while OBS is running. So our main characters, if you're watching the visualizer, you can see I have my little notes because there are some things that I wanted to talk about that like really penetrated my tiny monkey brain. Our main character is Lain. She is our heroine, she's our MC, she is our shonen protag of the series. And then our kind of like side main character, because we do get to see her later on, when Lain briefly comes back to reality, I guess, is Alice. Arisu in the what they call like that's what they call her, but her name is Alice. What was I gonna say? Okay, so their relationship is very interesting because if you know I guess in pop culture movies in America in the States, we have this like weird trope, and I guess it's not super weird because it does have some canon, but this is also what made me very terrified of going to high school because I thought people were gonna bully me to death. I mean, it really depends on your high school because there are some public schools that get very intense with those. So, if you have a bad thought, if you think you want to physically hurt someone, please get help. Please go seek therapy because there's no reason you should be beating up on another child when you're 15. Like, yes, we all deal with really weird hormonal rages, but hurting another person is not the way to go. If you're a minor, if you happen to listen to this, I doubt there's anyone under 18 listen to this. If you are, don't listen to me. I'm not the role model you need in your life right now. All that to say that there is a trope of popular girls, like in Mean Girls, basically, like where they're kind of like pitying the loner slash weird person. So that's basically our introduction to Lain and Alice, is that her and her friends, I forget what her friends are named, but they're going out, they're like, hey, let's go to this club. I forget what the club is named. I don't remember anything except for like Lain and Alice and the end where we have some weird body horror moments. But that is how Lain gets introduced to them, basically, and this is how Lain starts to pick up, like, maybe I am not a real person, or maybe I shouldn't be here, or things like that, because it's kind of hinted that she has some weird powers, that she has some weird draw that not everyone else does in the real world. There are the two spaces that come up often, that was mentioned like in the synopsis, I believe, is the wired, which is online, which is how all data is transferred, how we keep connected and things like that with email and stuff, which is basically the internet. And reality. And reality is where we have Lain and her really lonely, small family. The one thing that I think is really interesting about the dynamics of her family is that we see that her sister, her quote-unquote sister, is pretty popular. She doesn't really check in on her sister or not, so that sibling dynamic, I mean, it's pretty fair, but no one really pays attention to Lain. The mother is very, very indifferent, which is kind of fucked up. She's just there. She's more like a puppet than anything else. Yeah, but the sister is hardly home. She's either with her boyfriend or she's just in her room. Lain, it's very, very lonely. Like, her room is, like, usually if, like, think about it in Perfect Blue, like the idol girl and the main character there, her room is covered in posters and memorabilia, and she has her laptop set up, and she has her bed, and she has all these stuffed animals and her pet and things like that. Lain's room is nothing like that. She just has her futon, some of her stuffed animals, align her window, and then her one small desk, her little chair, and her old Navi, which is old computer. I don't know why I remember that, but I thought that was very interesting to show how little, how basically Lain is kind of like a clean slate for the viewers. Like, we can project, we can put on anything, like, oh, like, maybe she's just alone, maybe she's depressed, maybe she's XYZ. Like, she's a very, I don't want to say very, project your own things on her, but it's more like I guess she is a blank slate for the viewer to, you know, like, anything goes, because in the first couple episodes we don't really get to know a lot about her. So yeah, after a couple episodes, oh yeah, her dad is also like obsessed with the Wired. Like, he has like a fucking 12 computer setup. Who needs 12 monitors? I feel like even 3 monitors is intense, unless you're a streamer. If you're a streamer, then I guess 3 monitors is acceptable, but it's like 4 or 5. I think it's getting a little too much. I think we're going a little bit too intense. But yeah, so the dad is obsessed. He's like, oh yeah, I don't know if he has like stocks or if he's gambling, but he's a part of a group, and we don't know if he's a part of the group of the Knights. The Knights is like a cyber terrorist organization. I'm not sure, but basically, they also have a plot later on. I should have done more research before I watched this, before I started recording this. Just me talking out of my ass for like 30 minutes. But yeah, we'll meet the Knights later on, and the Knights are enamored with Lain. They are absolutely obsessed with her, but they're obsessed with the version of Lain that exists on the Wired. When we go to the club with Lain, Alice, and Alice's friends, there is a couple people, and it's like the DJ, and then maybe some other like random punk kids that Lain talks to eventually. That's also an interesting subplot. The punk kids, well, not the punk kids, but like the cyberpunk kids, whatever the hell. They're just a bunch of brats at the club. Why are they at the club? They're literally like 12. Like, no, I think they're actually Lain's age, and then the girls that she went with are maybe a year older than her, and maybe Lain is just short for her growth. I don't know. I think she's like 12 to 14. That's my headcanon. I don't actually know how old she is. If there's data on it, all of the Lain stans, let me know. I'm a Lain stan as well. I just am severely lacking in the knowledge right now. Okay, so we go to the club, and then people are like, yo, Lain, like, you're going, oh yeah, someone tells her that she's going for the Lolita or like the lolly look, because we see in, like, when she's asleep or in another brief moment, we see that there is a older version of Lain, and you're like, whoa, there's 2 Lains. That version of Lain is the Lain that has existed on the Wired. The big spoiler is that Lain was never meant to be an actual person. She existed on the Wired for an who knows long amount of time prior to her somehow having a body, being birthed, and then living this weird solemn life where she doesn't really have her powers, I guess, or she doesn't really know that she is like an all-powerful entity and things like that. I think it's very interesting because you could also see this as a coming of age story, as Lain accepting that she was never meant to be a person, that her being in reality causes chaos, or it causes causes certain instances of not necessarily negativity or chaos, because in one instance later on in the series, we see that Alice has a crush on her teacher. She's a little pervert, and apparently she like thinks of her teacher while touching herself, which is really weird. Okay, so it's not okay. That is weird, I will say. But basically, the alternate lane, or the lane that has existed on the Wired, knows about this and leaks that information and tells everyone about it later on. And it like ruins Alice's life. She's like super upset. She blames it on Lane. She's like, why can't you be normal, etc., etc. And it causes a really bad rift in the relationship. But because Lane now knows that she can, she's a god, she can manipulate reality, she can do time travel, she can destroy certain things and things like that. Like, the way that her, not necessarily powers, but the way that she, like, you can tell she's, I guess, a different being than from all the other humans or all the other people in the series, I guess, is that in one instance, she wipes everyone's memory of the other Lane leaking the information that she has a crush on the teacher and she touches herself to the teacher or whatever that Alice does. Because the following day, no one knows what they're talking about. Like, no one... Apparently, it's basically like an alternate, like Lane basically created an alternate universe where no one knows what happened between Alice and her teacher, or like no one knows that Alice has a crush on the teacher and touches herself to the teacher or whatever, and things like that. And I thought that was really cool and really interesting, but it also was like, it basically, instead of like mending their relationship, it basically freaks out Alice even more. And so Lane then makes the really, really mature decision, what I thought was really interesting. But I guess it's also more sad for her to even be in reality, because we also find out that her family was never her biological family. Again, like, she was born out of one of the, she was born out of like some programmer or some guy who thinks he's God, and she ends up like destroying him, or he ends up imploding on himself with Alice. And so basically she goes through everything. Like, she goes through her discovery, realizing she was never meant to be a person. She's a god. She can manipulate reality and things like that with Alice. And Alice is like, what the fuck is going on? Alice is like losing her mind, because it's something that I guess if we were to see as humans, and not necessarily online personality, but if we were to like see like the code and the programs that control the internet and do the back ends of things, because there's people who run that, but if they were to be sentient, they would also kind of freak us out because they can do things that we can't. So basically that's what Alice is going through. Like, imagine if you met God and God was like, hey, what's up, let's be friends, I'll like manipulate reality for you. That's basically what it is. And Alice just cannot comprehend this. And because Elaine realizes that this has caused her a lot of chaos, this has caused her a lot of trauma, and Alice is just so distraught. She doesn't know what is real and what isn't real. Elaine is just like, you know what, I'm gonna be a super cool person, and I'm gonna be like, I'm just gonna disappear. She pieces out. And I thought that was really interesting, because we don't see Lane care for anyone else. We don't see anyone else really care about Lane until Alice, gives her that like one crumb of like friendship and is like, yo bitch, do you want to go to the club with us? And her friends are like, oh no, she shouldn't go to the club with us. Like, her friends are just being assholes. But because of that kindness that Alice extended to her, Lane in return extends the same, or even more. Like, she pays her back like 100-fold by literally erasing herself from reality, and none of the events that happened in the series happened because she manipulated it or whatever. I say or whatever, it's mostly because I can't explain it properly, because it's not that I don't get it, but it's that there's no words that I have in my vocabulary to properly explain what Lane does, because she's just so badass. It's just beyond my tiny peanut monkey brain that I could explain. But basically what happens is that she removes herself from reality, and how she spends however long on the internet, or she spends however long in the Wired, but because the Wired, I think, was destroyed somehow, there's a different space of reality. But again, Lane transcends all of that, so she's just existing wherever she can with her non-physical form, because she doesn't have a body anymore. She destroyed it. She time travels. Or however much long into the future, we see Alice as an adult, and guess who she's with? Dana. She's dating the teacher she was fucking touching herself to like a freak. But I guess she's however old now, that's consensual, as they're both adults. She meets her, or like she sees her, because like Lane is just like on a bridge or whatever, and she just wanted to check in and see how Alice was doing and if everything was okay. in this version of reality. Who knows, it's like the third or fourth universe. Who knows at this point? Because the series gets it gives you just the bare minimum to figure out what's going on, because there's also like the subplot of, again, like the cyber terrorist organization who wants to use lain to destroy the programmers or whatever, and then the cyberpunk kids, or like people like abusing these weird bits of program coding or whatever to like not get high but to like manipulate reality. It's basically, yeah, like LSD that manipulates reality, but it's not. Oh no, it is your reality, but it also like affects other people, I guess. Like this one guy takes it, but it's like too intense for him, and he tries to kill Lain and Alice at the club, but Lain is like, fuck you, bitch, I'm bigger than you, I am better than you, and like he kills himself basically because she's like, you're a punk bitch or whatever. That's basically how the scene goes, and it's a very iconic scene, I feel like, because then that gives us the it puts the impression on the viewer that, holy shit, Lain is not just a random schoolgirl. She's actually a badass, whoever she may be. Personality, being, God, who knows? She has so much, not character development, but she has so much more. She has so many more layers to her than initially thought, because we just see a depressed, lonely kid in the first episode, and then towards the end of the series, we literally have like a mind-altering, mind-bending demigod or whatever who can exist in whatever plane of reality she chooses to do so. But yeah, she extends that kindness to Alice, and she visits her later on in the future momentarily, because I think if she's there for too long, it'll fuck up the time space or whatever. I don't know. I'm just pulling this out of my ass. So she's just on the bridge, and then Alice and the teacher, who are, I guess, dating or married or whatever, happen to walk by, and she looks at Alice, and like they talk for like I think a second. And she's like, yo, do I remember you from somewhere? Because I guess it's like, even in the other reality, Lain's face is familiar or whatever. I keep saying or whatever, but again, it's just because I don't have the words to explain what it is. They have a brief moment, like a brief, small, tender moment, which I thought was really cute, because it's basically just like Alice and Lain reconciling briefly, even though Alice can't even understand to the degree what Lain did to just have her to have a happy ending, which is really nice, I suppose. Oh no, it is nice. It's a very soft, tender moment, and I really do like that, because that's like one of the only gratifying things we get in the series, because Lain just suffers so much. She doesn't have a real family. Her sister, who may or may not have been her actual sister, gets murdered and is stuck in a weird frame of reality where no one knows she's the real her, and she can't even communicate to Lain that she's dead. And I thought that was also an interesting plot, that when the sister realizes Lain is like God, she kind of just goes insane, and then the Knights, or the other organization who released Lain into reality from the Wired, makes her, like, gaslights her basically, because when she tries to come home, there's already her sister there. Like, so there's two versions of her, but one of them is stuck in like a gray space where no one knows she's there, and then we have the fake sister. And also the mom never gave a fuck because she was just an actor the whole time. The same thing with the dad, but the dad has more of a like really sad goodbye, because he's like, I wish I could be your actual dad, or I could wish I could be your actual sister, or whatever. And then we also have the weird thing of like those bodyguards who work for the Knights, or the anti-Knights, or whoever the hell they're called, be like in love with Lain, but Lain is a child. Granted, we don't know how old she actually is. She has the body of a child. That was fucking weird. I didn't understand that. I mean, maybe it's because like she's a god, or they're just obsessed with her power or whatever, but I just thought that was really weird. So that was kind of the things that go on and not go on during the whole entirety series of Lain. What impact does it have on society? What impact does it have on future animes and being on the internet and things like that? Because even people who do like internet core or glitch core or those weird niches of content that they reblog or whatever are obsessed with her, because she is the internet girl. She is the original girl. She is the moment, she's talented, wonderful, amazing, gorgeous, insane, and all of those wonderful things, because she's a character who actually encompasses a lot after we get past the initial couple episodes. So if you want to watch the series, although it is a slow burn, I highly recommend you do after you listen rented to me for about almost 20 minutes. I think it is a series worth watching if you want to realize, like, I guess the not necessarily historical, but cultural impact Serial Experiments Lain has on future series and internet culture and things like that. Oh yeah, I wrote Lain was never a real person, but an AI brought to life and given a body/family. I talked about that briefly, but that was such an interesting concept because they don't really flesh it out. She just discovers that, or not she discovers that, the anti-knights who, like, have the bodyguards and things like that, they tell her, like, yo, you were never, like, and it's such a, not gratifying moment, it's such a, like, painful moment because, like, everything she knew and everything she had gone through, like going to school and learning coding and having some friends and not having friends and her weird tumultuous family life, it was all fake. Imagine, like, going to what? Imagine, like, coming home and then everything you know is different and you're like, your dog is gone, your mom is gone, your dad is gone, your siblings are gone, you're fired from your job, or your job doesn't even have you in the register anymore, and you're just not a real person, or you're just, like, everything you knew is just coming crashing down. And granted, there are some moments that happen in real life, you know, like, so sometimes family members keep secrets from us, sometimes these other things get weird, you know, things are weird, you know. But yeah, it's just such a earth shattering, or like series shattering moment when we realized that, like, it was, and also I think it was a really good twist in terms of, like, plot development, because I feel like the series it's not all over the place, but it definitely doesn't follow a linear story, which I actually really like, because I know for some viewers, me included, that it's really, really hard to keep entertained, I suppose, with the linear story plot. Like, when you think of Naruto or you think of other shonen anime, it's like the character, their goal is, like, to get stronger or be the best, like Goku or whatever. But with Lain, it's like, the more we learn, the more we are confused because we don't really get solid answers, which I think is also really cool, because sometimes things being explained, like if you think of, like, My Hero Academia, and you think of, what's the other series, Demon Slayer, that, like, everything is kind of given to us on a silver platter, whereas, like, with Lain, we get, like, crumbs, we get bits and pieces, we get hors d'oeuvres, we get, like, appetizers. We never really get the full meal, and we don't really know the full context. And that's what I think is really interesting, like, with certain series, like, especially with Ava and Lain, is that some things were given more context in video games. Like, if you, I don't know if there's an English playthrough, but I know there's the Japanese playthrough that was on the PS2 and the PS Vita, I believe, that explains a lot more of Lain and her family life through the video game. I don't really know what you do in the video game. I forget, but if you want more sustenance, if you want more things explained, the video games and the wikis, I think, do more justice. But a lot is still unknown, I think. Again, Lain veterans and stans, let me know on Twitter or on YouTube or wherever, because even when I excuse me, sorry. Even when I tried to, like, look up things, I felt like I was still at a loss, or, like, at my ends of, like, what am I even looking for anymore? But it was very, very interesting, I guess, to like, notate that not everything is given to you. And I think that's a really good, not necessarily plot device, but I think it's really good because it keeps the viewer watching. Granted, some people are going to be like, oh, everything's not given to me, like, it's not like shonen anime, so I'm not going to watch it. But then again, the series isn't for people who watch shonen anime, I guess, because, you know, that gratifying moment when the, like, hero wins or whatever for, like, the 1700th time, it's like, cool, it's an awesome moment, I suppose. But is there anything more to the character? Does he, is he in love with Sasuke? Does Goku want to kiss Vegeta on the mouth? We don't know. I think the other interesting thing is Lane's relationships, and how I think that, like, there was a lot of speculation, I think, on Tumblr, or I don't know if it's a lot, maybe it's like one essay post that I read that she possibly could have been in love with Alice because she was the only one who showed her kindness. And it's kind of that thing where if you're so touch-starved and you're so deprived of other human contact, you kind of just fall in love with whoever shows you the time of day. And I know as a teenager, as a loveless, lonely, desperate teenager, you kind of give yourself Stockholm syndrome, and you're like, oh, this person is the best. Oh, you know, you kind of create the scenario in your head that, like, they're doing this because they love you or whatever. But it's like, literally with Alice, she just took pity on Lain because she was alone. She was a freak. And sometimes that's what people do, even as a lonely, other desperate teenagers. They're not in love with you. They just want to show you some kindness. Granted, I think, wait, I don't remember if Alice kisses Lane. I don't know that this happens, but yeah, because I think a lot of people also can headcanon Lane as a lesbian, but we don't really know because, again, her relationships aren't really fleshed out. We don't know her relationship with her sister. We don't know if she knew Alice from younger grades or things like that, but the possibility is still there that she could have felt some sort of connection beyond just friendship with her, because she did literally change the world for her to be happy, even if she ends up with a straight man, you know? But I thought that was also a really interesting thing that people will touch on. There's so many, if you like go on Tumblr, there's like a million essays about Sasuke and Naruto, you know, like 500-page MLA essays. They can go on and on. I want to see more essays on Lain, because I really want to get to the bottom of like her archetype or her character, because she goes through so much in such a short amount of time. It's like very intense, despite everything that goes on. But I do love her character, and I do appreciate it. Okay, so the next talking point, you've seen it if you're watching the visualizer, but the podcast will come up first. The next point that I have, it's not really a point, is that the whole feeling of the anime is very surreal and lonely and depressed, and it left a humongous mark on the internet in the brief time that it aired and was on the internet, or like her reign, because you know how like Naruto was everywhere, and fucking Dragon Ball Z was everywhere, Demon Slayer was everywhere, My Hero Academia, you know, everyone was talking about it. I don't think when this premiered, I don't think I was on the internet a lot, or I wasn't on the part of internet that was obsessed with the current popular anime at the time, so I didn't really get to see the like essays or the fan art or whatever crumbs are left over now from the old days of Tumblr or Twitter or whatever, because I'm not sure if you like look up the tags or you just look it up, because Lain is also like a person's name, so you'd have to look up the whole entirety of the anime, and not everyone's talking about that all the time. But I definitely think she left her mark on the internet, because so many people loved it, or so many people use her aesthetic, or so many people like, I kin this character because they closely relate to it. They are that character. I don't understand the logistics of kinning, but I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to be witch hunted, or I also don't understand it, so I'm just not going to talk about it. But there are so many other things that I could talk about. What the fuck was I even saying? I think the impact left on the internet by this anime is that, one, it's not for everyone. Two, that people want to be her so bad. People wish they were late. Because I feel like, because I also put like on internet culture, like e-girls, internet core relatability, because I feel like a lot of people, especially even like people now with the work from home and everything going on, I feel like the weight of the anime can closely be closely it can be tied very heavily to our, I guess, current events and things like that, because you can relate anything to anything, is what I'm trying to say. But I feel like we're going through another, I guess, internet revolution with all of the discourse on Tumblr being hashed out on Twitter, because history is doomed to repeat itself. So I feel like Lain every so often resurges in popularity, and people are like, why aren't anybody talking about this, or why isn't anybody watching this? Well, one, it didn't get a lot of press at the time, and two, anyone who liked it, I guess, was either, I don't think people were chastised, but I think there was a very small niche part of the internet that really appreciated and loved the character of Lain and loved the series as a whole, and dug through the crumbs of like the video games in the PS2 era and found out more. But I think also people are just obsessed with the aesthetic. Like, I know so often that gif of her with, she's like connected to the wired and she has like the 10 million monitors, it's so popularized because people are like, haha, hashtag meet. And it's like, yeah, we're all on the internet, we're all plugged in 24/7, and it's really hard to not be. And I think that's what's very interesting, is that back in the day, like in the 90s, it was like a whole chore and task to go on the internet. Now it's relatively it's readily available and easy, although it's not although it is like widely available, it is not in reach of everyone, because there are still kids who like have to use school Wi-Fi for the internet. So I think the like cultural impact and cultural dynamics of the series just get rehashed and just get reinvented and talked about over and over and over again. And I think it's such a, if not, because it's not the best, granted, but it is such a good series, I feel like, that it just left a mark on my brain that I had to talk about it, even if I'm talking about nothing and I'm talking in circles, because I just love to talk about things that I like, and that's why I have this. That Oh yeah, I said e-girls. I don't even know why I said e-girls, but I think that a lot of people love that, not necessarily cyberpunk, but they love that Y2K era fashion and speak and talk. And I feel like although Lane wasn't popular during the Y2K era, I think the style and the just like way of people talking and things that go through kind of remind me of the Y2K area, because not everyone thinks, oh, internet bad, oh, computer's gonna kill us and things like that. But just in terms of how, of like, I guess how the characters express themselves and things like that. I don't really know what else. I don't really know where I was going at that point. But yeah, again, if you want to watch this series, I completely highly recommend it. I'll write an essay on Lane's cultural impact and how so often people resonate with a character that is beyond what our minds can even think about. Because I know people like love Gon, Killua, and other super powerful characters, and granted, Lane is an extremely powerful character. I think a lot of the internet, that's what I was going to say in terms of relatability, that a lot of the internet or people who watched at the time really resonated with is that her loneliness and her, not necessarily sadness, but her distance from everyone and everything. Because I feel like people who are mentally ill or people who are severely depressed and anxious can heavily identify with this character, because it's so often you're just going through the same day over and over again, and everything just feels so distant and repetitive. Because we do have a couple scenes where she has not necessarily cognitive dissonance, but where she is kind of not held in reality, like she's not completely there. I forget what it's called. Dissociating. Yeah, I think there's a couple scenes where she does, because it's just like, I don't know if it's because of what she's going through, but I think it's also because she's realizing she's not meant to be in reality. And I feel like a lot of people feel like they're not meant to be here, and it's debilitating. It's worrying, and it's hard to constantly feel like you don't belong, to constantly feel like maybe if I wasn't here, the world would be a better place and stuff like that. And we're not all Lane. We're not all a super badass character who was birthed from the internet, and was fostered into a real person. We're just people, offline. We're just us. It's hard to deal with that, I suppose, and it is difficult to cope with. But even if us not being here to make the world a better place, I don't think it's fair. It's a disservice to us to feel like we're the burden and we're the problems, because we were just born into a society that happens to be constantly falling apart and constantly falling over itself, because its leaders can't even help the people that they're supposed to be in charge of, So if you resonated with what I said, please continue to be here. Please continue to find the things that you love and the things that you love doing. And talk to people you love. Make you something to eat. Drink some water, because I feel like when we're so wrapped up in what we're going through, it's difficult to see the bright side of things. So definitely go outside, take a walk, spend some time with your pet. And if you don't have any of these things, try to go online. 7 cups of tea, Omegle. And I know Omegle is like the worst place on the internet, but it can be a way to cope, So, sorry I had a bitter, real end to this episode, but I feel like I talk about so many things, and some people resonate with them, some people don't. But some of them can be really severe, and so I want to make sure that I don't want anybody to leave with bad thoughts. We're this year, we're coping, we're working through our family trauma, we're trying to be better people. And even if you feel like a worse person after you listen to my podcast, one, I apologize. Two, order some takeout, get some Uber Eats, or make you something that's gratifying and fulfilling. Make some art, write me a hate comment, however you need to cope. Do what you need to do. But thank you for listening to my nonsense. Thank you for listening to me ramble about nothing for like 35 minutes. I will see you in the next episode. Enjoy. Bye.